Warm spring sunshine is heading for the UK. Well, for most of us. Wales could reach over 20 Celsius. That'll be the first time we've got over that value this year. But on the other side of the pond, it's 40 degrees Celsius we're looking at across the southwest of the United States. Then there's some wild winds affecting areas that you'd normally associate with sunshine. Madeira, the Canaries, Egypt, and northern parts of Australia. It's a global deep dive today. Welcome along. We do this every Tuesday, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then you want to do that right now. Join 400,000 other people and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do this every Tuesday. Half an hour or so of intense meteorological mayhem. Thank you very much for being there. Thank you for joining me. Do hit subscribe, do hit the like button as well, and share the love. Is there another Met head in your world that doesn't know about the Met Office YouTube channel? Well, let them know as well. We do appreciate everything you do, for watching, for hitting the like button, and for your comments. Really, really like reading your comments. If you've got a question about the deep dive, put it in the chat, put it in the comments. We read through them, and then we often answer a lot of those questions during our live, which we do every Friday at 12:15. Another reason to subscribe. As I said, this week, the deep dive has a very global feel to it. Yes, we'll be talking about the UK temperatures and how it is going to be a pretty warm week, but we're also looking further afield. Let's set the scene and take a look at what is going on. It doesn't look that warm out there at the moment, and for many it's been quite a cool day. The jet stream is pretty active out across the Atlantic, but it's dipping down, creating this trough, which is helping to push low pressure systems up towards Iceland. But this trough is really important, not just for our weather, but also for the weather a little further south. If we just zoom out a little bit and play through what happens, this trough, it's what we call disrupting. It stops being this kind of U-shape and breaks away into its own little circulation down here. It's a disrupting upper trough, and the jet stream is part and parcel of that. And as it breaks away, it creates almost like an oxbow lake down here. Another part of the jet stream getting pretty active up across Greenland and Iceland, taking the low pressure systems up here, generating low pressure systems in this cutoff here down to the south, which allows for us a chunky area of high pressure to build in. And it's that high pressure building in over the next couple of days that will bring many of us some sunshine. There is this little annoying weather front that is going to provide some zones cloudier weather, but there will, for many of us under high pressure, be quite a bit of sunshine. That will make for chilly nights because we are close to the equinox, but it will also bring some warmth and some sunshine by day. More on that in a moment, because first of all, let's deal with what's going on down here. This is the cutoff high up in the atmosphere where the jet stream is. You've got a cutoff low, but that is also generating low pressure systems at the surface. If we take the jet stream off, you can see this little lower kind of couple of features dumbbelling around each other. And this low pressure system has been named Storm Therese by the Portuguese Weather Service because it is going to bring Madeira in particular some strong winds, but also the Azores and the Canaries. So in this zone, some pretty lively weather. We're going to see some heavy showers over the next few days and also some gusty winds. Now, note particularly as these lows form down near the Canaries, the isobars pinching together here, some very gusty winds for the Canaries. Now that's an unusual wind direction. You may have seen in the news last week the storm that hit Hawaii and caused significant problems there. And one of the reasons with that was the wind direction, the trade winds, and a low like this generated winds in a completely different direction from what they're used to. It's a similar scenario for the Canaries. Not expecting the same kind of devastation, but it's a similar scenario in that the winds normally for the Canaries come in from the northeast, the trade winds, but with a low like this, the winds at low levels are going to be coming in from the southwest, and that change in wind direction does bring a different feel. It means areas not exposed to the rain normally or not exposed to the winds normally get it, and they're not exposed to the waves either. So it's a completely different scenario from what they're used to, and that can be more disruptive. So we are expecting gusty winds around the low, say for Madeira, the Azores, and the Canaries from this storm system. Some heavy showers will be moving through, and it really does continue with the lows kind of generating in on themselves because of what's going on high in the sky, because of where the jet stream is. Things are not shifting, the loads are kind of just spinning around each other and just generating these pulses of showery rain that will move through, and some strong and gusty winds. So you'll probably see headlines in the newspapers this week about the UK being warmer than the Canaries, and that may well be the case. Certainly going to be drier and sunnier than the Canaries because it's looking pretty gusty here with some heavy showers coming through. I'm going to show you a graphic now to show how unusual that is. This is the EFI index from the ECMWF model. The EFI stands for Extreme Forecast Index, and it basically just shows you how unusual a certain weather event is. This is looking at the wind gusts. There's the UK. No wind gusts for us, certainly nothing unusual. But the scale up here tells you how unusual. Anything above 0.8 would be, very unusual. Anything above 0.9 to 1 is extreme. So we're in this zone down here across for particularly Madeira, but also increasingly across the Canaries over the next day or so with those gusty winds coming in. That is very unusual, right at the top of the scale there for those strong winds in this part of the world. It works out from the ensemble when you run the model many times how many of the ensembles are in the top 10% of the climate, and then it generates this map, and the red colours getting close to 1 there, suggesting that is pretty extreme for this part of the world for the strength of the wind. But we're not done there in terms of wind strength. Let's go back to the bigger picture. That's the southwestern corner of Europe done, but let's zoom out, because we're not just focusing in on the polar jet, which brings us our weather, but we've also got quite a strong subtropical jet. This jet, which is often in this kind of position through this time of year, in the springtime across North Africa, but it too is also quite lively, and it too is spinning up areas of low pressure. We go back to the satellite picture. There is this little low that's been spinning through the Mediterranean, bringing heavy showers for Tunisia and Libya, along with Malta earlier in the week. And now it's spinning up again, another area of low pressure in here. And if we get to where we are at now, you can see that generating in there, that little area spinning up northern parts of Libya, northern Tunisia, seeing some heavy rain. Again, just being enhanced by that little dip in the subtropical jet. And let's put the pressure pattern on and see what happens to that. That low pressure system will be taking its way across the eastern Mediterranean, bringing some heavy rain. Take the jet stream off, put that band of rain on through Thursday and into Friday. And it doesn't just stop there, it continues to work its way in. So other holiday destinations, places like Cyprus, Turkey, seeing some heavy rain currently, and that band of rain moving its way then in across Syria, northern Iraq, parts of Afghanistan, like to see some heavy rain also as that low moves in. Again, unusual for the time of year. In the Canaries, we could easily see 20 to 40 millimetres of rain. In this area as well, we could see 20 to 40 millimetres of rain. Not huge amounts by UK comparison, but again, unusual, not what they're expecting, and that would be pretty heavy rain even for this part of the world for this time of year. You can see some snow there over the mountains, over the hills and mountains here. We could be seeing 100, 200, maybe 250 millimetres of rain. Now that is all going to kind of wash down, so it could cause some ravine flooding, some heavy downpours likely to cause some disruption here. Not only that, there'll also be some strong and some pretty gusty winds, particularly as it moves through, as that low spins around. Here, notice that isobars pinching together there across northern Egypt. I can show you a similar, another EFI map now for the same part of the world for Wednesday. And before the low really gets into northern Syria, northern Iraq, but this end of the Mediterranean, notice those orange and red colours there for Egypt. So again, some unusually strong wind gusts. And again, places that people will be familiar with, tourist destinations across northern Egypt. So there'll be a lot of blown dust, that kind of thing in this part of the world as that system moves through during Wednesday and then into Thursday. And the rainfall itself, as I said, could cause some issues, likely to be pretty heavy. Let's have a look at the rainfall on the global scale. if we zoom and pan, which one do we want? It's not showing it, is it? Why is it not going that one? Come on, you can do it. Oh, just having a little moment there, just having a little moment, asking it to do too much. So here's the rainfall, 24-hour rainfall accumulations. As we go through the next 24 hours, you can see northern parts of Libya, southern Italy seeing that heavy rain, but let's fast forward Thursday and track it down this end of the Mediterranean. You can see those totals popping up there, those oranges and red bars, 75 to 100 millimeters of rain likely. Again, most of that will be up over the hills, but even at lower levels, we're seeing 10 to 25 millimeters of rain in what is normally a pretty dry part of the world. So that is something that we also need to watch as that weather system moves in, along with those gusty winds into parts of Egypt. Now, let's go right, well, I've gone the wrong way there, to the other end of the world and look at Australia, because we've got some even higher totals in here. If we zoom in, showing these rainfall bars in here, in excess of 150 millimeters of rain there across northern Queensland. Let's tilt it. So there's Cairns, it's hopefully going to be to the north of Cairns. But in here, say, those high rainfall totals coming in Thursday and Friday, and that is from a tropical cyclone named Nurell. And as we go through the rest of the week into the weekend, watch those totals building up here. So we're going to see those totals jumping across the Gulf of Carpentaria and see similar kind of totals, more than 100 millimeters, more than 150 millimeters. In fact, this part of the world could see 300 millimeters of rain as this tropical system moves through from northern Queensland into the Northern Territory. What is causing that? Well, it doesn't look much on the satellite image at the moment. This little swirl here out in the northern Coral Sea is a tropical cyclone that's really developed over the last 24 hours, now been given a name. It's called Nurell, given a name by the Australian Weather Service. That is the next system to come in here, and as we saw, it's likely to track in this way. Not particularly potent at the moment, doesn't look much on the satellite image, does it? But let's take a look. Take the jet stream off, don't need that. Let's zoom down to the southern hemisphere, see if we can find it. There she blows. I say, doesn't look much, looks fairly weak at the moment, but it's undergoing more, it's intensifying. It's over favourable conditions, warm seas here, giving it some oomph, giving it some energy, and it's just tracking its way there towards northern parts of Queensland. And as it does so, the isobar is just gently increasing around it. The wind speed's picking up, and it is likely to steadily increase as it approaches the coastline during the next 48 to 72 hours. Likely to make landfall Thursday into Friday. Now, it's got to travel quite some distance, over 1,000 kilometres, a bit more than that actually. So there is still some scope for where it is going to make landfall, but at the moment it's likely to hit well to the north of Cairns, but in and around this zone, thankfully, it's not particularly well populated. But if it is a little further south, it could hit some bigger towns. And where it's likely to hit at the moment, not especially populated, but in this part of the world, the Bureau of Australia have quite a broad tropical notification along the coastline, because, as I said, it could shift a little further north, could shift a little further south, because it's got to travel quite some distance. As it hits, it is likely to be the equivalent of a major hurricane with mean wind speeds over 110 miles an hour, because that is quite an intense, quite a powerful storm. So it is likely to do some damage in terms of its wind strength, and we've already seen the rainfall totals that we're expecting from it. 150 to maybe 300 millimeters of rainfall. Now, here's the thing. As it makes landfall, as it crosses, I say it could be a bit further south, could be a bit further north, but as it crosses these storms, these cyclones, same as hurricanes, they're fueled by the sea. So as it crosses land, it will lose some of its intensity. Watch as it kind of fizzles out a little bit here, but then, boom, jumps out into the Gulf of Carpentaria, this massive sea, which is nice and warm, gives it a bit more energy, starts to intensify again. So it may well be still quite a powerful storm, or re-intensify into a powerful storm, as it then makes a second landfall, probably through the course of the weekend, into now the Northern Territory, drifting in here. And again, packing powerful winds, but particularly that northern portion of the Northern Territory going to see a lot of rainfall. Now, these areas do see these systems reasonably frequently, but this is quite a potent storm. It needs watching, as I said, and anytime it interacts with the land, that adds to the uncertainty a little bit as well. So, beyond Thursday, Friday, the track a little more uncertain, but as we'll see in a moment, reasonable consistency from where the models are taking this. It then heads its way in and across the Northern Territory. And again, notice once it goes over the land, it loses that energy from the sea. It will start to weaken somewhat, but as it heads over towards Darwin, still likely to pack a punch. Still a few isobars wrapped around it, so it could still be quite gusty at that stage as it tracks in here. And this is the projected track of that storm system. So hopefully you can see that it's a bit washed out. There's Australia. You can see there's the peak in the northern Queensland. There's the system at the moment. Now, these are lots of different models taking that track and pretty consistent. You can see that's quite a narrow band for where that's likely to hit. Given that's what 3 days or 2.5, 3 days with before it makes land, that is quite a small area. So reasonably consistent. And even then, most, if not all, once it's taken that step, most, if not all of them, take it across the Gulf from Carpentaria into the Northern Territory. Then it gets a little bit more sketchy, a bit broader, but there's every chance this system may then move out into, again, warm seas off the north of Western Australia or the north coast of the Northern Territory, and it may well then dip back south and make a third landfall in Western Australia. So there's every chance this system could make 3 landfalls within the next week. Obviously more uncertainty that far ahead. That'll be a week away probably, or best part of a week away. And it might not curve that way. As you can see, some of the models just take it out that way. But it could hit 3 different states, 3 different territories in Australia. And that's quite rare. I think I've been speaking to Julian Hemming, our tropical cyclone expert. He said 25 storms, I think, this century have hit 2 different states, but only 3 have made landfall in 3 different states. And this one's taking a similar track to Steve from the year 2000. So it'll be interesting to see how this one develops. Obviously, it's going to be quite intense as it hits initially. Then lots can happen, but every chance that storm could make 3 different landfalls in Australia over 3 different territories, which is pretty unusual and quite remarkable, really. So something to keep a close eye on there down under in Australia. Right, one more place to go now, and it's over to the United States, because things here have been getting pretty interesting of late. Real contrast across the US. Notice the wavy jet stream. It's dipping down here, generating that cutoff, and the storm Therese for Madeira and the Azores. But it's doing something not dissimilar over in the United States. A very wavy jet stream, very amplified jet stream. And if I put the temperature profile on, you can see this cold air digging in this trough. And that has generated some hefty snowfalls across parts of the United States. A friend of mine in the United States, Paul Gross, sent these pictures from northern Michigan. He is holding there a yardstick, which is just under 1 meter or so, and there it is buried in the snow. Now, he did say some of that snow fell off the roof, so that's not how much snow necessarily fell, but just to give you an idea in northern Michigan how much snow has fallen. This was on Monday, I think. So yeah, quite a lot of snow. Who is jealous of that snow? Put it in the comments if you're jealous of Paul's snow. Almost 1 meter's worth there that he's measuring in North Michigan, and we've seen that cold weather behind that trough. And interestingly, this is the warnings board from the National Weather Service this morning, and all of these purples are for cold weather alerts across the deep south as that cold air pushes in. But what's going to happen next is really remarkable, because these pink colours are for today for heat warning in the southwest, and it's this heat that I really want to focus on now, because the cold is disappearing. The heat is really, really building across parts of the United States. We're going to have to pan across again here with the jet stream doing this wavy thing. The third wave, the third trough out in the Pacific here, pushing it north, actually taking the wet weather from Hawaii that we saw, when was it? end of last week, the wet weather from Hawaii kind of being pushed up into western parts of Canada. So it's going to be very wet here for the next few days as well, as we see the jet stream taking wet weather up here. But it is allowing high pressure to build in across the United States. And that high builds and builds and builds. Let's put the temperatures on. Let's take the jet stream off and just watch this high pressure building in, what they often call a heat dome in the US. And that heat really building in the southwest through Arizona and particularly California through Friday, probably peaking on Friday, but for Saturday also looking pretty hot. So it's going to get very hot in this part of the world, southwestern parts of the United States, as we go through the back end of this week and into the weekend. How hot are we talking? Well, I've shown you that. Let's look at this. This is the EFI, but this is now for temperatures. So it's the extreme forecast index for temperatures now. Hopefully you can make out this is the United States. There's Florida just poking out there. That's the East Coast. So this is the current cold. So it works both ways, not just for extreme heat, but extreme cold or extreme gust. You can see that actually the cold in the southeast is pretty extreme at the moment. This is for today, and the heat is building in the south and the west of the United States. But if we fast forward to the end of the week, by Friday, the cold is not extreme anymore across the East Coast, but the heat is even more extreme. We've got in values, up to 1 there, if not more than that. The black outlines there, the shift of tails, really intense across parts of the southwest of the United States. Utah, California, down into Arizona. We're talking temperatures well above the average for the time of year. We're getting temperatures inland over 40 degrees Celsius. I'm going to show you a map now of temperatures. I'm going to use the American kind of grading now. I am going to go into Fahrenheit. I know it's a crime to be talking in Fahrenheit, but that's how they do things in the US. So I'm going to show you a probability of getting over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, because that's what they use in the US, and that's quite significant. So 100 Fahrenheit is 37.8 degrees Celsius pretty much. So if we look at this map, this is for Friday. What are the chances? So this is when you run the ensemble, you run the model many times, gives you a probability of getting over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see there, a little peak there. It's Friday afternoon for them, that big splodge in there. We're talking high 90s% chance. So pretty much a guarantee that some parts, the southwest of the United States, are going to get over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty unusual for this time of year. The National Weather Service forecast for Mecca in California was 114 degrees Fahrenheit for Friday. That's their forecast. The record for the United States for March is 108 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're beating records potentially by 6 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 degrees Celsius, that kind of ballpark, which is really remarkable. This heat is pretty extreme, very extreme, in this part of the world. That heat building through Friday, probably seeing the peak, but even into Saturday, temperatures widely in the high 30s, low 40s. And remember, this is March. This is really remarkable temperatures, may even be higher than some of the April records in this part of the world. For those temperatures to be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in this part of the world this time of year is unusual. And even further north, this is the temperatures for Salt Lake City, again from the ECMWF ensemble. The temperatures aren't as extreme here because we're further north in Salt Lake City, so the numbers aren't as high. We're going up to 20 degrees here, the days going forward here, and these little discs are the temperatures, the box and whiskers plot from the ensembles. And this red line is the extreme, is the climatological extreme. So we're above it Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and only as we head into next week does it start to come below that extreme. And even these minimum temperatures, the blue box and whiskers, are above the average maximum for the time of year. So it's really remarkable, the heat that we're going to see in Salt Lake City, as well as points further south across through California and Arizona over the course of the next few days. So again, something that we need to take note of, and something, of course, exacerbated by our changing climate. Right, was that everything on the United States? Yeah, I think it pretty much was. Okay, let's bring it back to the UK. Talked about our weather a little bit. Let's go into a bit more detail now because it's going to be quite interesting. There's the jet stream pushing its way further north. And as we go through the next couple of days, there is this weather front. So it's not going to be sunny everywhere. Let's take that off because it's not going to be sunny everywhere tomorrow. I want to get that message across as well. We're talking a lot about warm and sunny weather. And for most of England and Wales, it will be tomorrow. Cracking day. If you like spring sunshine, beautiful day. But that old weather front is going to provide quite cloudy skies in this zone across Northern Ireland and southern Scotland. And even through Thursday, it's still kind of hanging around. If anything, the rain could pep up a little bit for a time as we go through across the southeast of Scotland. And that is in part to do with what we call the necking portion of the trough. Talked about this trough right at the start. As it dips southwards, it's a disrupting upper trough, which is when it creates its own little low high in the sky. But as it does so, this little bit where it comes together is called the necking portion, and as that comes together there, it might just pep up this weather front a little bit. So it's that necking of the jet stream, or the upper forcing, just pepping up the that little weather front there, which is likely to then provide a bit more in the way of rain as we go through into that southeastern corner of Scotland and just create a bit more cloud in this zone across northern England and southeast Scotland during Thursday. So we're talking about sunny weather for most, but it will be a bit cloudy in Northern Ireland, southern Scotland tomorrow, and a bit cloudy in this zone on Thursday, northeast England and southeast Scotland. If we put the winds on, they're not particularly strong, but see where they're coming from. Again, let's zoom in here. So we're talking a lot about this glorious sunny weather, but notice the breeze coming in here off the North Sea. Now, you know, if you live in northeast England or eastern Scotland, you know if the breeze is coming in from the North Sea, it's never going to be that warm. So that will make it quite cool, I suggest, along these temperatures, along these coastlines, with that breeze coming in, quite grey skies, maybe even a little bit of drizzle here and there. So that's why we're seeing the temperatures doing what they're doing. If we look at the projections for the next few days, let's go to Wednesday. So these are the temperatures when compared to average. And these are kind of broadly speaking what we'll see, 15, 17, 18 degrees. But I suspect we'll see some pockets a little bit warmer than that. And particularly here, hopefully you can see this here, the darker reds there in West Wales, because the flow is kind of coming in from the east, coming over the hills. West Wales likely to see the highest temperatures, some 7 to maybe even 9 degrees above average in this part of the world. So temperatures in West Wales, that's probably where we'll see the peak of the temperatures on Wednesday. Yeah, quite widely in the mid-teens, pleasant enough. But in West Wales, we could get 20, 21. There is even a chance that we could squeak up to 22 degrees Celsius. Not unprecedented, but pretty unusual for this early in the year. It's only happened kind of a handful of times in the last 100 years that we've seen temperatures of 21, 22 degrees in this this early in the year. So yeah, that would be my favourite top temperature. But notice also some darker reds there for North Devon, northern parts of Cornwall, again with that shelter with the flow and the way the winds coming over the hills, the breeze, that's likely to pick those temperatures up here also. But if we go back to the summary chart, picking out Thursday, not as warm. You notice temperatures a degree or so down, but still this orange colour above average for the time of year by some 3 to 5 degrees. Notice those little pockets there of blue, even slightly cooler than average, perhaps, along the coastline of southeast Scotland, northeast England. So it is going to be cooler there because we've got that cloudier weather and a little bit of drizzle. But fast forward to Friday's chart, and boom, temperature really jumped up here. We've lost that flow off the sea. We should be seeing a bit more sunshine. So it's not going to be sunny everywhere all day, and it's not going to be warm. It's going to, the temperatures are going to jump around. This often happens when you've got high pressure because the wind direction matters most. When you've got high pressure and you've just got gentle breezes pushing around old weather fronts and old lumps of cloud. If you're stuck under the cloud, you've got the breeze off the sea. That's going to be cool, but a subtle shift, and suddenly the temperatures will jump up. So Northeast England, southeast Scotland, eastern Scotland in general, your warmest day is probably likely to be Friday, whereas other parts of the UK further south, yeah, be basking in mid-teens on Wednesday, but it will be cooler by the time we get to Friday, because by then the flow is generally coming more in from the east across the south, if that makes sense. So if we fast forward, there's the high pressure. The high pressure's moved in to the North Sea, and the winds go clockwise around high pressure. Let's take the jet stream off, don't need that. If we put the low level winds on, pretty subtle, but moving around that, so you can see there's more of an easterly flow across parts of the south, whereas in that northeastern corner, the winds will be more coming up from the south and southeast. So just subtle shifts, and that's what gives us meteorologists a bit of a headache in this kind of scenario where the weather patterns are quite slow moving, where we'll see the highest temperatures. Always hard to pin down, but most places seeing quite a bit of sunshine to come over the course of this week. May see some changes as we head into the early part of next week, but I'm not going to go into that at this stage. We've been around the world, so that's more than enough for me. You can watch the 10-day trend if you want more on that. I believe it's Aidan doing that tomorrow, so that'll be available on our YouTube channel by the middle of the afternoon on Wednesday. So Aidan will be looking at that, what could happen as we go into next week. Could we start to see a change? But certainly in the short term, plenty of sunshine around. As I said at the start, please hit that thumbs up button. Give us a like, and if you're not following us already, do so, and make sure you subscribe, and then you'll be notified when Aidan's 10-day trend does pop up. And share the love. Love hearing your comments as well, so make sure you're commenting and letting anyone you know who might enjoy these videos know about them as well, so they can join in and we can just all be one happy meteorological family. But that's about it from me. Let me know how you thought about the world. Been around the world today. I know some people really like the global content, some people may not. So again, let me know about that in the comments. Do you want more global weather, or would you rather we just stuck to the UK kind of stuff? Yeah, all up for grabs, as always. Whatever you're feeling, just drop it in the comments. But that is a long, rambling way for me to shut up and say goodbye. I'll see you again soon. Oh no, he's back again. Sorry, one more thing that I forgot to mention. It's the equinox this week. That's on Friday at 2:46 in the afternoon, but it's also the equilux this week on either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on where you live. What's the difference? What's it all about? Well, watch this video here and Aidan will explain it all. Make sure you like and subscribe for daily uploads.